Welcome everyone to another lunch and learn. We haven't had this session in such a long time, so I'm very excited to have another one. I'm Lani Yelenya from the Neurodiversity Education Academy and with Neurodiversity Foundation. And joining me today is one of our volunteers, our amazing ADHD coach, Jose Antonio Otoya Nieto, and he will be sharing about Ayni and ADHD. So this is something that we've been having conversations about, and I'm very glad that he can share this information. Jose, I'll leave it up to you. And for those who have questions, feel free to add it in the chat. Um, and for those who will be watching the recording, feel free to add it in the chat, and we'll be coming back and reviewing the questions as well. So, Jose, I'm giving the floor to you.
Thank you, Lana. Thank you so much for the invitation, and hello, everybody. I'm going to walk you through what is that we're going to explore today. But let's start first with a little intro of who I am and what is that I do. My name, as Lana says, Jose Antonio Otoya. I work as a facilitator, ADHD plus coach, speaker, and community placemaker. I am the founder of Just Release the Kraken. There is a service for coaching and mentoring for neurodiversity with focus on ADHD, and also the founder of the ADHD Plus support group in Amsterdam. That is an initiative that we will talk about it a bit more in depth later. But it started as a previous initiative where I am a co-founder of the ADHD support group in Berlin that started a few years ago. What we are going to do today is we are going to, I know why today. Today we are starting the Neurodiversity Pride Week, and we are celebrating how our neurodiversity shows up, right? So what we are going to exploring, like, we are reflecting this week in different ways of how we can address our neurodiversity and how we can deal with it. And based on the experience that I had on the things that I have been doing and that I want to share with you today, there is a reflection that I would like I would like to invite you to go through with me today. The question that we place in the title is like, what does sacred reciprocity have to teach us about healing in community? That question is the main exploration, and how we're going to do it today. We are going to take the example of the support group that I host on weekly basis in Amsterdam, and we are going to explore what has been happening there, what is that helps people heal or not in the space, and how that connected to the Andean concept of Ayni. So through that exploration, we are going to land into a place where we reflect on what is the experience we had and the concept in itself, how it matched, and what are the lessons that we can take from there to be used in our neurodiversity journey, in our own personal journey, and different spaces that we inhabit, like work, personal life, and society at large. So first, I'm going to give you a bit of a introduction or a overview of what is this group that I'm talking about. The ADHD Plus Support Group Amsterdam is a space that I created as soon as I moved to the Netherlands in 2024. It's a space, as I said earlier in the presentation, that started from an exploration and experimentation in Berlin, where I was living previously, where together with a very close friend of mine, Masha, we explore different ways of how we can get and give support to neurodiverse people. Sorry. In Berlin, it was more an exploration, and then I landed into an idea of how I would like to do these things by myself. And I created the group in Amsterdam that is been running on weekly basis. So a little bit of general information so you can see what is that I'm talking about. This group is running on weekly basis every Wednesday in the House van de Wijk, the Copenhagen in Wester Park. It started in August 2024 with 10 members in the first event, and it has grown up until today to 961 members. I have organized more than 100 events in Amsterdam since then, and it has been without any budget. and without any advertising, mostly only using the platform Meetup to create the events. And it has gone through basically word of mouth. There is some statistics from the app that I'm showing you here on the slide that this is a group or events that have been qualified as, or a, what is the word for this? Like, had 326 reviews that gave a 4.9 out of 5 rating. Is the highest rated group in the Netherlands, and the main feedback is welcoming host, engaging, I feel safe, etc., etc. And I earned the badge from Meta that with the top 0.1% organizer or ADHD events in the Netherlands. There's not much going on, so it's not that difficult. So this is the context. I've been running this space in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, for since 2024. And previously, I was running it in Berlin. So together with Berlin, I have hosted around 200 events, a bit more. And I have connected with with hundreds of people. In Berlin, the group is around 700 people. It's a bit smaller. And this is where I've been observing. I am ADHD, or I have ADHD and autism myself, so I have a strong pattern recognition. And through this experience, I've been paying attention to what works and what doesn't. And this is what I want to share with you, my fresh reflection of what is it. And how we're going to do it now is I would like to take you to a little journey of what happens in the space in a specific moment, and then we go into a reflection about it. If you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat, and Lana will bring it up to the conversation once she sees it. Let's talk about the pattern. I was reflecting, what is the thing that has been happening all the time that regardless the concept, regardless the format, regardless the date, whatever, always happens. And it's something that happens when someone comes to the space for the first time. So let's picture this. Someone has been signing up for the group for several times, and they don't show up. If they've signed once, twice, three, 4 times, they don't show up. That's a pattern. It happens often. People, for different reasons, they don't just show up, and one day they do. One day they come, and as soon as they arrive at the space, first, they are on time. The first time, they are on time, very on time. Then they will not. Over time, people get more comfortable, and they are not on time, and that's perfectly fine in this space. But when this person arrived the first time, apologies are in order. There is always curiosity about what the space is going to be, but there is a cautious attitude of what am I putting myself into? And this is where we start to reflect a little bit. We're talking about people who have had several experiences of rejection and very likely suffer of some level of social anxiety. However, they are there. They try and keep trying, and they keep putting themselves out there to find something that might help them. They enter a room full of strangers, hoping that something is going to be different this time, and that the rejection might, hopefully, will not be there. Uh, this is, it takes one to see one, right? Only someone who has trouble with neurodiversity issues can understand the amount of thoughts that can come to our mind when we want to do something that can take us to full paralysis. And even when someone is signing up for an event, the whole inner conversation that is happening before going to the event can just keep you in the sofa and not allowing you to leave. And this is something important to keep in mind, because when this person arrives apologizing, they are not apologizing for something that they have experienced. They are apologizing for the impression that they are giving to the host, right? So this means that when someone finally shows up to an event of this kind, they have put a lot of effort to leave the house, to quiet the mind, and to just go to a new space to hopefully feel welcome. So that's something that they are avoiding to they are avoiding to fail again, to fail the expectations of others, and that's something that it cannot be ignored, let's say, right? So we often try our best, and we often feel misunderstood because we fail to fulfill the standards that are out there for others, right? So when I see this noticing, when I see the person apologizing and cautious and yeah, with that energy, I move into stop them and say it in different ways. You're here, and that's what really matters. Doesn't matter if you tried to come before. Doesn't matter if you didn't make it on time. Doesn't matter if you. Nothing matters. What matters, you're here, and that's great. And that's not something that comes alone. I have over time perfected a very simple yet impactful strategy that can set the tone of the space. When someone arrives, I look them into the eyes, I smile at them, I introduce, and I offer a hug. And so far, nobody has rejected the hug. It's like even some people demand the hug when they keep coming more and more often. It's like, and then when they arrive in group of four, like, oh, my hug, where's my hug? Yeah. So it's that's very telling. Like like we say in design, God is in the details, right? So it's those little little moments, little details are telling us something, right? Eh, but what is that this moment is telling us? What is happening in that moment? What has to be true about the energy of the group, of myself, or in the moment that is real and not hollow, right? What's happening? So let's go a bit more into the details of the space in the group. Oh, sorry. So that's what's happening. I have two screens and I'm moving the other screen instead of the previous one. So what's happening, what has to be true? Now we move into the group to understand a little bit more the details around it. And the first one is the intention or the need that boosted the existence of this group, and what has arisen through time, basically. Right? So my intention at the beginning was that I wanted to create a space that was a peer support space where I can feel understood, where community can happen. That was the original energy that created this space or that created the need of this space back in Berlin when I was living there. But over time, as I said, I'm neurodivergent myself. I keep adding things. I try to make it perfect. I try to make better questions, to have clearer rules, to have more formats, and to more event types, etc., etc., etc. But when while doing all that, because of my neurodiversity, not everything got to be perfect, right? I aimed for a lot. I was very optimistic about what the outcome could be, and some things worked, some things didn't work, some things were forgotten over time, some things remained, etc. But looking back to all the things that have happened throughout the ideas and all the changes that I have done, something remained. There was something in the space that survived all the quote unquote failures, right? Because also something that I feel important is to mention is this group was not meant to be part of my work. I started my work as a coach and facilitator, and I started this group as my personal experimental project that was to counterbalance. There was no pressure to do it right, there was no pressure to finish anything. It was an experiment. Okay, I'm gonna try every Wednesday to deliver a space and see what comes out. So that also allowed me to test a lot of things and reduce the pressure on myself to make things right. And a lot of quote unquote failure happened. But then throughout all those ideas and situations, and again, there was something that remained that was actually what was the core of the space. And what was that? It was vulnerability, experience, and presence. It was the energy that flows between the people. When someone opens themselves to be vulnerable, it allows others to welcome that vulnerability, and at the same time allows them to be vulnerable as well. When I share my experience, people can connect with it and then feel comfortable sharing their own experience. And when we are all present, we can feel each other. So what kept the group running and growing through the years was not the physical space, the was not my skills or the themes, etc. But it was that energy, that interaction between people, that something, the tissue that was on the making in every session. So I felt that there was something working, that energy was there, but I couldn't find the right vocabulary to do it. And it was until I met Lana that we started to have conversations about this space. And we started to reflect together, and she started to ask me the right questions about, okay, but let's strip it down. Let's strip it down. What is the core? What is this group doing? And I kept reflecting, it's not the theme, it's not the format, it's not the day of of the week, because it's a Wednesday evening. And what I concluded by the end of the reflection is that what was happening in the space and happens every Wednesday is the relational being. What that means, what we exist in relationship. We have our individual being, our individual self, and the relational self comes to life when we are together. No, the relational being is when we create this energy that is the summatory of all our contributions, and it's an energy that flows between us. It's not is something that you feel when you are surrounded by people in any context. This takes different shapes depending on who are you surrounded by. And I finally started to put the name on what is it that I saw was the key part of the project no? And what is about this that is special for neurodiverse people? Usually we are denied the room or the space that we need to take for ourselves because of how we function. We are denied the time to process and respond in the ways that we process and respond things. And we are denied the permission to regulate together, to share, to be, right? Neurodivergent people move through a world that wasn't designed for them, for us. It's not just in a clinical sense, it's in the relational sense. The way that society builds expectations on how human connection can happen or not is very much not friendly for neurodivergent people like us. This is from where labels as, oh, you are too intense, you are too fast, you are too slow, you are too much, are arising from. Because the expectation is that we should communicate, interact, relate to others in a very, very specific way that doesn't fit how we function. And yeah, so we have been denied the chance to create our own way of relationship and connect with it. What is this telling us? It's telling us that we don't heal in isolation. We heal in relation. If we take a moment to reflect on this, we know, I mean, how many apps, techniques, tips and tricks we know about ADHD and any other neurotype. How many details or advices we got, and all of them are stored in our head, and it's so difficult. So many times it's so difficult to just execute the knowledge we have. Compare that to having someone next to you who understands you, who sees you as who you are and with whom you can be yourself, you can feel the difference. You can feel the difference between trying to push through my ideas and my knowledge to execute something alone, then discussing it with someone, or just sharing a space like body doubling. Like you can see how having another human, creating a relation of any kind, doesn't have to be verbal, just energetic presence, just interacting with humans can make things different. And not just humans. Our relationships are not just between human beings, are with animals, is with nature, is with the reality in itself. And this is what this sentence that we hear in relation embodies. It's not only about having someone to talk to. It's about feeling part of a whole, feeling part of something bigger than myself, right? So if we go back to the experience of the group, what happens after the newcomer has arrived to the space, right? So the arrival is the moment where they are apologizing, they have their guards up, the shoulders are tense, they're like looking around, like measuring, like what is the word for this? Assessing the risk of the space, like reading, paying attention to the details. We take time to welcome everybody, then we sit in a group, we start talking, and progressively through the session, the newcomer has more or less the same pattern. In different speeds, but it's the same process that becomes a pattern. Starts to listen, starts to identify themselves with what others are sharing. And at some point, when they feel comfortable enough, some people feel comfortable in some minutes, some people need 2, 3 sessions to feel comfortable enough. But we reach a point where they can open up and they can share. And then you can see the shoulders dropping, you can see the body language more relaxed, you can see a smile popping up, and other emotions arriving as well. You can see that they feel comfortable and all the quirks and all the ways come out and is not judged, rather celebrated, because many times there are situations in which, oh, you are like me. When someone shares something or they just allow themselves to be bubbly and energetic, "Ah, me too, and oh, you talk like me." And those moments are magic, pure magic. When someone feels seen and when someone recognizes themselves on others, and the idea that I am alone, that I am the problem, that I am the one that needs to solve everything by myself, those ideas just fade away. And there's a new idea rising like, maybe this is not something that I have to do alone. Maybe there is more there for me. And that's when that's when magic happens. That's when doesn't matter the structure, the strategy, the theme, the techniques that I want to put in place as a facilitator to hold the space. Doesn't matter. What matters is what the group is doing, what people are sharing, how they are sharing, how they are present, how they are connecting and respecting each other, how they see each other and allow themselves to be seen as well. So as I said, the space is not the materiality of it, it's not the container, it's the energy that flows in it, that it contains vulnerability, experience, knowledge, and presence. Each person is giving what they have. They are giving their best. If I if someone is courageous enough to open up and share what they are struggling in the moment, that's already a gift to others, because that's what they offer their experience, they're offering their struggle, they are offering their vulnerability. And that alone is healing, or it's part of a healing process, because people can connect with that, can connect with the core of of the struggle. And this is part of something that we neurodiverse people might experience in different ways, that we cannot enjoy much of small talk, right? So when someone opens up to the depth of their thinking and emotions and reflections, we connect because we can enjoy that level of deep level of depth. And so from this reflection, from understanding that it's not about whatever I do, is about the energy that people contribute and allow to happen between them, is where we can move to, like, wrong screen, is where we can move to Ayni. The relational being is, when I was reflecting about this, I was looking for concepts that can help me understand in a more philosophical level what is that is happening in order to have the right language to build up a approach to this, right? I am from Peru originally, so I am closer to the Andean culture. And this is an interesting detail because I learned to reject that culture in order to pursue progress. I was uh, actively taken away from learning the language or learning the traditions or learning the concepts. This concept of Ayni has come to me now that I live in Amsterdam, and it was just like a shadow of something that I never really understood ever. So this is an interesting connection because we will dwell on that a bit later. So what happens? How do we move from the relational being to Ayni, and what is that we can learn from it? Right. First of all, to summarize what has happened in the group that we are exploring right now is that people are giving and receiving in a constant flow. There is no boundary of a transaction. There is no, I do this for you, you do this for me. No. Is people are opening up themselves, allow their self to flow and connect with others, and we create a relational self. So it's giving, welcoming and receiving what others give and keep giving. And this constant flow is creating a virtuous cycle that has no boundaries and it's something in itself, right? So how this is explained through Ayni. Ayni is an Quechua for is a Quechua is a language, is from the Andean tradition, the way to understand reality. It means it will translate poorly to to English as reciprocity, but it's a bit more than that. Is is an ontological approach of how we understand reality. The West world where we live and most of us were raised uh, prioritizes one understanding, one ontological understanding of reality, one ontology of reality that can be explained in comparison with Ayni in this way. In the Western world, things exist first, and then there are relations, right? So it's like the individual exists, and then the individual establishes relationships. That's more or less, in a very simple way, the logic. Ayni says that the relationship exists first, and then the things exist. So it's the other way around. And how to explain this in an how it comes to me is like the planets or the universe. Let's look at the universe. In the universe, there are forces that make things happen, right? It's not, if we follow a Western philosophy, it's like the planet happened first and then the rest. The thing happened first and then the relations. But that's not how it works. The forces in the universe create conditions for planets to exist, for stars to shine, for solar systems to function. There are different forces that some of them we understand, some of them we don't. But these forces create the conditions for these things to exist. And that those forces happen in different levels. In the planet, the forces are the sun, nature, the planet itself, the rotation of the planet, etc., you name it, that creates the land, that creates the conditions for some cultures, some situations, some resources to be here are there for them to happen or not. So the relation of forces allows a thing to happen. And this is super interesting to contrast with the way that we live our life in a Western society, because we live under the idea that we exist first and then we create something else. And you see where I'm going with this, right? And as I said, I am from Peru, and I don't want this to sound as I'm romanticizing an indigenous knowledge from the land that I come from, because the different ontologies are just maps to understand the territory, right? Are maps to understand reality. And different traditions and ontologies have create more or less this, or have arrived more or less to the same conclusion. The Andean culture through Ayni, the Buddhist dependent origination, that everything exists in relationship, and is even the Western physical knowledge, physics knowledge, where when we go all the way into quantum physics, we understand that there is excitations in fields. There are no things. There is energy that creates things. So if we are talking about maybe the way that we're looking at things is the is the source of how we're struggling with some things. Follow me a little bit here. We're gonna get a bit more clarity. This is this is not a philosophy. This is not a dogma. This is not something to believe on, like, and pray like. This is philosophy that is working, that has been proven, in the sense that it's a philosophy that arose from centuries of culture looking at reality in the Andes and how the potatoes grow because the water, the sun, and the wind, and the temperature, etc. They realize that if everything is in balance and the relations are okay, or in how they should be, everything works and nature provides. And that's the logic, right? And it's the same thing that is happening Wednesdays in Amsterdam, where the group is just people finding balance together and co-regulating. Is finding connection and finding a energetical and emotional balance through interaction, through relation. That's the core of this that it becomes so interesting for me. So now, if we go back to the story of the door, when I said someone, you are here and that's what matters. That's Ayni. That's Ayni that was flowing, and that's Ayni that it was not intentional to happen. But as I shared earlier, because I frame this space as outside my work, and I reduce the expectations for it, and I label it in my head as experimental, I allow myself to just be. And also the original need behind this space was I want to connect. So I tried through the years. I've been doing this for almost 4 years or more, and more than 200 of these sessions. So I allow myself to practice who am I and how I want to connect with people and how I want to learn from them. And organically, this relational being came to life. So what this opens? What is that we can do with it? It's a nice reflection, okay, but how can we use it in our life, right? Let's look at the symptoms of our struggles in nowadays life, in our daily life, right? Burnout is given without ever feeling something flows back, right? Is this, I'm burnout because I keep working and I keep doing and I keep and I'm not getting enough in return. So something is sucking my energies to the point that I cannot do more or give more. The transactional nature of societies that we live in, or most of the Western societies that we live in, breaks the relation. Right? There is no meaning. There is a meaning crisis because everything is about give and take, and the system is designed in a way that promotes to take more than to give, because you are going to be a smart businessman if you take more than what you give, right? So it is, if we compare with that energy that happens in the example of the group when we are together and we are all vulnerable, it's like if someone comes into the group just to take and not give. Imagine someone entering that space, not opening, not sharing anything, just taking from others. It will feel like a full disbalance in the energy that is flowing between people. And that's what happens in Western individualistic transactional societies, that we are just taking and falling apart from each other. And of course, if we are facing right now worldwide different levels of fear and instability, is also because of that, because in different scales, from individual to societal to corporations to you name it, everybody's trying to pull to their own side. People are not trying to connect, people are trying to protect themselves from fear, from I don't want to lose anything, because there is this idea that if I share what I have, whether it's resources or knowledge, or well, knowledge is a resource, but if I share my energy, if I share my knowledge, if I share what I have, there is this idea that I'm going to lose it because nobody else is going to share, right? Or, yeah, I think the point is clear at this point. So I want to be very careful here. I'm not saying that Western culture creates unhealthy or bad people, but the way that society is designed at large promotes and uh, rewards some behaviors that can be read in some spaces as sociopathic, even because we disconnect from the tissue and we prioritize personal profit and personal benefit out of the benefit of the group, right? And something interesting here is that for those who live in the Netherlands and who understand a bit of Dutch culture, in the Netherlands exists the polder model. I hope I'm pronouncing it well. But the polder model basically is the polder is the barrier that holds the water away, right? So you have this barrier that goes across different lands of different ownerships. And the polder model basically says that each owner of the land that has a section of the polder needs to take care of that section. And the logic is like everybody does their own part. And if one doesn't do it, we all die, basically, because the polder has to keep a standard quality to keep the water away. If not, we all die, right? So it's not in the Netherlands, in a society that is seen as highly rational, they reach to a very similar social structure that the one from the Andes, that the one that comes from Ayni. That is that if we all do our best, the society moves on and we all benefit, right? So look at this country, things work and people put their effort. So this is a very good example. There are nuances, there are differences, of course, but we are landing also into the same logic that when people bring their best, things can work very well. And you don't have to be anxious about what is you're going to get. You trust that everybody is committed to a greater good, to a bigger outcome that will benefit all of us. And you can see it in the Netherlands. People are seen as transactional, but at the same time, they're very open to support each other if they can. There is this version of relational relation, I cannot pronounce it, that is that helps the country move. So how this can be seen in different spaces, for instance. In a individual level, like if we want change to happen in a way that will be impactful for ourselves, uh, what we need to change in our lives, like an individual level, is allow myself to flow, just to not see, to move away from transactions and to look at myself and see, like, what is it I have to give to the world? What is my value? What is that I find important? And this is what I give. And if we all individuals give, then in spaces like in the workplace, if we all give our best, the company is the best. Best practices in different corporate spaces are telling that when you allow people to be and you look at their strengths and you shape teams in ways that respect and honor those strengths and support the struggles, and when there is a culture where people feel part of something bigger, then there is the motivation to keep going. There is a meaning that arises from that. There's a difference between a workplace that is oriented to create the nicest product, that we are all together bringing our skills to create a nice product that's going to bring something positive or innovation or something great for society, and the energy that is created within that workspace. There's a massive difference to a company that is sucking the energy of everybody, squeezing your talent for someone to get richer, for just one or a handful of individuals to get richer and richer and richer. And in those corporations, you can feel that there is no soul. There can be a lot of narratives around, oh, we're a family here. But we have examples where Amazon, for example, you can see how the structure of the corporation is designed to suck the resources upwards, and not to create something that people can benefit from it. And that can also happen in different spaces, because different spaces, from education to culture to our houses, our intimate spaces, where we can understand that belonging is not about transaction. Because if we look our intimate relationships, or the most personal ones that we have, the transaction is very much like connected to expectations, right? I do this for you, you have to do this for me. And then the expectations become frustration, because, yeah, life is like that. Not everything happens as we would like to. But if we change that perspective, and if we inhabit our private spaces from reciprocity, from flow, from active exchange of what is that we can give, then the energy is completely different. Then belonging is about, I am the source of whatever is that I can give, and the other person as well, and the other, and the other. And together we welcome each other, and that's belonging. That's the difference between belonging and fitting in. Fitting in is like there is a box that you have to fit, so cut some parts of yourself in order for you to fit in that box. Belonging is, I flow as I am, you flow as you are, and we celebrate our flow, and we create a massive flow together because we feel comfortable with whatever is flowing for each other. Like, it can happen, of course, that I don't feel comfortable with what is flowing from someone else, and that's perfectly fine. Then I just look for where is that I feel comfortable with. And from there, like, if we reflect on the different spaces and the opportunity that arises from this perspective, let's imagine the type of society that we can aim for or that we can produce. So, to the question, what does sacred what does sacred reciprocity have to teach us about healing in community? My answer will be that the way that we look into reality is the way that we experience it. And the way that, if we look at reality as transaction, as individualism, as profit above else, then we're going to experience that way. If I look at reality from an individualistic perspective, no wonder why there is a crisis of loneliness, because I am aiming to be alone. Like, all the efforts are going in that direction. If I look at reality from a relational perspective, then I'm gonna put energy and effort on building up relationships that fit me on the way that brings the best out of myself, right? So yeah, that's I want to leave you with that reflection. And if you want to continue the conversation, there are a couple of things that you can do. Next week, we have with Lana and a group of other professionals on the 16th of June in Almere, I hope I'm pronouncing it well. We have the conference Design for Belonging. We are going to reflect about how to design spaces where all minds can thrive, like how we can move from designing spaces for people, we move away from that into designing spaces from the people, how we can understand the needs of the person first, involve the person, the potential users, and create the spaces accordingly. Of course, you are also very welcome every Wednesday in the House van de Wijk, the Copenhagen. That is the where I host the support groups, and you can find it in Meetup, and you can find in Meetup both in the support group and the Design for Belonging event. Also in the website of the Neurodiversity Education Academy and the Neurodiversity Foundation. You can find the links there. And last, if you resonate with the way that I think and that I do my things, you can reach out and we can work together. I I work from individual to group setups with yeah, and my approach is to try, not to try. My approach is to accompany people to heal the relationship with themselves, with others, with their work and their context, and to understand how is that they could be more themselves in a way that they respect how their brains work and can develop strategies that will really hold over time. So yeah, and my business is called Just Release the Kraken, because a quick story about that is that the Kraken is this creature that from mythology that is the biggest weapon of the gods that they have, and for me that represents the biggest talent that we have within ourselves. And when we allow ourselves to let that power come out, beautiful things can happen. And I think we all deserve to have that opportunity. So yeah, that will be it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Say. And it's interesting how this got really steered by our conversation in the Neuro Cafe, right? Or like when we started having this conversation around what's this essence of the support group. So thank you for sharing how much of this is very much drawn into in Filipino we also have an equivalent word that we're using, which is kapwa. So seeing ourselves in our shared humanity. And I see that, that relational being is deeply entrenched in the culture, in the practices, in the ways that we engage with each other. So thank you for expanding our awareness around how much of this space holding that we say, oh, we do in a way that what's this feels right is not just about ourselves, but really about the practices.
Yes.
Just realize the cracking, release the
Yeah.
kraken.
Yeah.
Um, so for
Thank
those
you
who
so
are
much.
still what's this watching, feel free to add in your questions. And I'm one of the things that got steered in music in terms of how you started. Now when people come in, and I can imagine their nervous system is um dysregulated, or there's so much uncertainty in being in a new space. When do you see the settling? Like how long do you notice it, of like, I know when you hug them, but I'm curious from all the sessions that you've held, how do you see that settling happens?
it happens when people. Well, thank you for your words, and thank you for hosting this call today, and thank you for all the conversations we have had, of course. The About the settling, I it happens when people can see themselves in others, when they recognize that their experience is not just in their heads, that is a struggle that is shared, that the yeah, it's a shared struggle basically. When there's always this, you can see it in people's faces when someone says something um, that resonates with them. You can see how they open their eyes and they're like, oh, it was not just me. There is something else happening, and that recognition of one on each other is is what starts to create this flow of energy, right? Because it's like, oh, that person is sharing something, and then what happens is like, oh, I see myself there, then I participate, and I say, oh, I also have this version of it, and then someone else, oh yeah, I also have this version of it, and oh, some of it, oh, I also have this version of it. And it's very interesting that everybody has their own subjective reading of reality, but we can build a more objective look into reality when we add our experiences and the nuances that each one of us has, right?
Hmm. It is indeed that of like knowing that we're not alone in the struggles. And
Mm-hmm.
I know for one of the neuro cafes, the first neuro cafe that we had in Amstelveen, there was one participant that said, "Isn't it interesting that when neurodivergent people come together, it's easier to just be with each other?" And I know there's a lot of the unmasking that happens in the space as well. And in that unmasking, I can also imagine that there's also a lot of tension on the surfaces, right? When people show up in different ways, that what's this, grind on each other. And so I'm curious, how do you navigate this space when there's tension between people who are in the group?
When there That's I actively promote dialogue because there is a sequence of events that can happen, right? We all have our masks, and we all have our way that we try to protect ourselves from a reality that can be challenging and difficult for us to be in. And there is a hypervigilance, and there is like some distance that we can take from people, social anxiety, you name it. So I always, in the introduction, I always try to put emphasis on let's go beyond the first impression. Let's look at the person behind the struggles. Let's look at the person behind the quirks, and let's show kindness and compassion, right? If for me it's very difficult to show myself, then let's reflect on the fact that maybe it's also difficult for everybody. So I actively promote dialogue because mm, the type of safety that I want to promote in the space whenever I call the space a safe space, the type of safe, what I mean by that is that if we get to understand each other, if we get to know each other, we can feel safe next to each other. Because if I understand how you function, if I understand, if I see you that you are very different to me, and this happens between different neurotypes, right? And we don't have only one neurotype. We all always have like several running around. So and this can collapse or crash, etc., or be the opposite from each other. So if I see you extremely different to me, but if I show curiosity and I am open to understand and also open to share of how I function, that understanding is gonna avoid misinterpretation, is gonna avoid misrepresentation, and is gonna avoid misunderstandings. It's gonna promote safety from understanding and knowledge, right? I understand how you function, so I know that this attitude is not a threat to me. It's just how you do things, right? So it's like dialogue is super, super important and especially for neurodiverse people like us, because the reality is, and this is something that I also repeat often in the group and different spaces where I work, uh, reality is that everything or most of the context that we live in has not been designed for us, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So we can complain, fair enough. We can complain because it's not fair, yeah. But if we just complain, nothing is going to happen. We need to do something about it, right? And to do something about it, I need to understand what is it I need, what is it I want to do, what is it I can do, right? And for that, I need to understand myself. And for that, I need to connect with people that can help me, right? So dialogue and connection is important to start building up self-awareness, to start building up strategies, and to build up teams and connect with others to be able to promote the change and create the things and the spaces that we need, because the reality is like nobody's gonna do it for us. We can do it. We have the skills. It's not that we have. It's not. We are not broken. We struggle because the society is not designed for us.
Yes. Yeah.
But we have the skills and we have the knowledge that if we come together, we can make great things. We just first need to heal together, to see each other in our struggles and pain, and then we can move into action.
Well, thank you, Jose. Oh, this has just been. It seems like there's a follow session that we can do around practices. What can we do together? What are so we're looking forward
Yes.
to jump starting the Lunch and Learn series. I see Sasuke is also here. So if you have topics that you would like for us to explore, feel free to add that in the chat or message us. You can see already in the chat that I've posted the link for the Neurodiversity Pride Day. There's so many celebrations happening in different parts of the globe. I think this being our ninth year with Neurodiversity Foundation, it has grown steadily in how we celebrate Neurodiversity Pride. And so I do hope you check it out so you can see if there's something that's happening in your country, in your location, and if you are here in the Netherlands, we hope to see you next week in Almere. We will have the session around designing for belonging, and Jose would also be there. Saskia will be there. We'll have Filippo and Laura from Melting Pro, our partners for the eForm project, would also be there, and we'll have keynote speakers and panel discussions, and workshops. And so if you want to have a taste of what Jose does in his sessions, feel free to join us in Almere. So he will be also hosting one workshop for designing for belonging.
And I can.
And
I'm
with that,
sharing. Yes, I'm
thank you,
sharing with
thank
you
you.
some. Thank you so much. I'm sharing with you some links of the for the support group and my website in case people want to connect as well.
Yes. We hope to see more of you in the next coming Lunch and Learn. We will be adding this in which is the recording in our website, so you can also access this outside if you want to watch it again. So thank you, Jose, thank you everyone, and looking forward to the next one.
Thank you so much. Take care.